Hello and welcome to Season 9, Episode 20 of the Ubuntu Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be discussing the potential demise of 32-bit Ubuntu, and we'll also have some command line love, and we'll go over your feedback. I'm Laura, and joining me this week are Alan.
Hello.
Martin.
Hello.
And Mark.
Hello.
So, Mark, what have you been up to since last time?
I've been unexpectedly working from home because my car's broken.
Oh no.
Your car.
Your blue car?
You didn't introduce your car to your laptop by any chance, did you?
He just needs to solder off the start switch.
If only it was that simple. No, it's just, so basically I don't live near enough work to be able to get there without my car. So, I'm working remotely and discovering the various ways of connecting to the services at work with open source tools, which is interesting. Discovered that there's a plugin for Pigeon which can connect to Skype for Business, which used to be called Link. I'm trying to work out if there's a way of actually doing calls over it rather than just instant messaging.
What's up with the little blue car that's done many miles?
It's got a fuel leak because something like the something to do with the fuel intake pipes were rubbing up against the air filter or something for some reason. It only went in for a service.
Yeah, that old chestnut. Yeah, mate, you got to change your flange grommet. That's the problem. Yeah.
You sound like you know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's done nearly 100,000 miles. So
how many?
100,000.
Ah,
well, it's done 99,000.
Right. Are you going to do one of those things where, as you're assuming you get it working again, drive down the road and do a video when it rolls over to 100,000?
You mean use my phone while I'm driving?
No. Well, you could have some of those spy glasses that record while you're warm. You could. Yeah. Officer.
Strap my phone to my face with my Google Cardboard and
I bought some of those spy glasses.
Have a 3D
they're quite
driving
funny.
Experience.
They're good fun for doing that kind of thing. Yeah.
You haven't been arrested yet?
No.
So Martin, what have you been up to?
I'm an Ubuntu member now.
Get you.
I know.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That makes one of us.
So yeah, that came around just at the right time. I was struggling to help out with the 16.10 Alpha 1 release tasks because I didn't have access to various things, and I was begging Popey to help give me the necessary permissions to edit the wiki and stuff, and he reminded me I should probably become an Ubuntu member. So I thought, yeah, I should probably do that, and sort of looked at my long list of things I should probably do. And then it found out that because recently I was granted some Ubuntu developer permissions, you can be grandfathered in as an Ubuntu member via other means. And when I was extended these developer permissions, I should have also been made an Ubuntu member, and it was overlooked. And within about 20 minutes, it was all sorted, and suddenly I had access to all this stuff. So I was able to roll up my sleeves and help out with stuff again.
So with this new access, you're going to replace Unity as the default desktop with Ubuntu Mate.
My powers do not extend that far, and I'm not sure that would be universally popular.
It might be a career-limiting move.
It might be. That might be a dumb thing to do. I think my Ubuntu membership would be hastily rescinded. So that's good. And I've applied for various things, some of the perks that brings you as well.
Cool.
Yep.
Shall we get on with it?
Yeah.
Let's.
So, just recently, Dmitry Ledkov has revived a discussion about discontinuing support for 32-bit Ubuntu images on the Ubuntu development mailing list. And because the mailing list is news now, just about every open source online news outlet covered this mailing list discussion as news. And the discussion, a similar discussion was had in Fedora last year. Richard Brown, the OpenSUSE chairman, has said that the 32-bit support doubles their testing burden and the build service overhead, and it's difficult to find 32-bit hardware these days, and some distributions have already dropped or never actually had 32-bit support. So Solus is a 64-bit only distribution. Elementary is now doing 64-bit only, and Tergos has recently released their last ever 32-bit ISO. So the question is, do we care that Ubuntu are considering dropping the 32-bit images?
Well, there's probably a bit extra that you should put into that sentence, which is dropping 32-bit images for future releases.
Yes.
Because the existing releases aren't going to get rubbed out from the internet. There's already 1604 32-bit and 1404 32-bit, which are both still supported. So if you install both of either of those, 1404 less, support duration, but if you were to upgrade to 1604, you would still continue to have all the goodness that you get currently. Mm-hmm. No problem at all.
So I guess the reasons for dropping support are fairly straightforward in that, less work to do. But what are the reasons for not dropping it?
So users of 32-bit ISOs are the main people who would complain, which is as you'd expect. If you take away someone's cheese, the user of that cheese is the person who's affected. So,
great analogy, Alan.
No problem. I'm full of them.
There's a book called Who Moved My Cheese. It's very good.
My friend Hugo says a bad analogy is like a leaky screwdriver. And I like
That's very Hugo.
Yes. So the thing is, if you're running a 32-bit version of Ubuntu on, or don't forget, it's not just Ubuntu, but all the flavors as well. So Lubuntu, Xubuntu, those kind of flavors that people tend to use on low resource machines, like maybe machines that have less than 3 gig of RAM and maybe they have an old processor, small hard drive. Those are the kind of people I would think being most adversely affected.
Yes.
Right. And I suppose one problem here is that there's no, even if your hardware technically supports 64-bit, there's no upgrade path, is there, from 32 to 64-bit?
Well, there is an upgrade path in that you put a CD in or a USB key if your machine can boot from USB, and you
blow
reinstall
away what you've got installed and start again.
Yeah,
that's what I mean by no upgrade path.
Yeah. Well, some people say upgrade, you just do a clean install. So for some people, the perspective of upgrade is just changing the digits from 1404 to 1604. The means by which you did that, whether it was a upgrade through, dist upgrade or upgrade manager or a clean install with a USB key, it's still an upgrade. So right. if you're going to, in inverted commas, upgrade, then you would need to reinstall the 64-bit version, assuming your hardware is capable of running a 64-bit version.
Yeah.
Which everything made in the last 10 years that is consumer grade hardware is capable.
No, it's not. So you talked about mainly.
Like what?
Well, the netbooks, for example, there was a long line of Atom processors that are in fairly recent equipment that are 32-bit only. So in our world, that is the last sort of relatively modern equipment that is only capable of 32-bit support. And my daughter has a Dell Mini 9, for example, that I bought in 2010. So it's, reasonably old. It's 6 years old, but it's a perfectly usable machine when you put a 32-bit Linux operating system on it. So those are the sorts of people. And, I've even got, ThinkPad T42s and what have you, and they run just fine. They're 32-bit capable only.
T42 is old.
Yes, that is an old machine. That's getting on for 14 years old. But, right. You stick still an IDE running. SSD in it and it works just fine.
Right, but that's not... The point is that modern, like anything bought roughly in the last 10 years, mostly would work. Okay. So there are some that don't, but
there are.
And the other thing is some actually do support 64-bit. Like I have a laptop which supports the 64-bit chipset, but can't handle more than 3 gig of RAM.
That's right.
So the rationale for upgrading to 64-bit might be to be able to address all that memory, although the 32-bit version can address that memory anyway. That's not a problem. But there are some machines which are quirky, which can't run 64-bit well.
Yeah. I suppose one way of looking at it is you're saying, anything that came out in the past 10 years would still work, but anything that came out in the previous 20 years would not work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a lot of stuff which might still be knocking around, especially in if there's like a second-hand market for old computers, stuff being recycled or rebuilt.
Yeah.
So I've got an old Toshiba Satellite Pro 4600, which has got a Pentium 3 in it. And that technically can run 32-bit Ubuntu, something like Ubuntu. Actually, it's horrible. You wouldn't use that computer. That is genuinely too old to be useful, even with a 32-bit operating system in it. There's probably something far more niche that you could do something with, but that hardware is really sort of past its sell-by date as a laptop. Maybe
How
if you
old's that?
Oh, that's getting on for 20 years, nearly. It's like 2000, something like that. So, 18 years, something like that. I think it's got a Windows 98 sticker on it.
Right, but so okay,
but
but you would never be able to run Ubuntu on that anyway, 32-bit or 64-bit.
Yes, well, you can run 32-bit on it now, but it's just horrible to use.
No. So it wouldn't be a pleasurable user experience. So you wouldn't do it. But, so therefore, you're not losing by not having the 32-bit option on that machine.
Yeah, correct. I completely agree. But there are a group of Linux users who have got some of the older laptops that are 32-bit capable only that can be usable, and they will be impacted by this.
Yes.
So I've done some work with some charities and non-profits, and they receive donated hardware, which they then refurbish and reuse, and then either ship to developing nations for school projects, or sell or hand on to disadvantaged families who simply can't afford a new computer, and all sorts of social outreach projects. So some of the well-known ones is Reglue in the US, run by Ken Starks, and he's said that this is a bad idea in his opinion, because just over half of the hardware that they get donated is 32-bit capable only.
Right, but this is just one distro, although, in your intro, it's one distro of 6 distros that are all doing a similar thing. What are his options? Like, if he's getting donated 32-bit hardware, which is in all likelihood 8 years old or more, so maybe like less than 10, I'll concede maybe less than 10, but 8 years old or more, he probably isn't going to be running Unity 3D.
No, he's using one of the flavors.
Right, so an Ubuntu flavor like Lubuntu or Xubuntu or something like that.
Yeah, like that, yeah.
So he could run... Oh, I see. So he could run 1604 of that nameless flavor, right?
Yeah.
And he would be fine until when? 2021?
2019 for the flavors.
For desktop.
With the exception of Ubuntu, the other flavors are 3 years.
So how old would that machine be in 2019 and still getting support?
Yeah, be pushing its age. And what's interesting is that while that is Ken's position at Reglue, one of the computer bank organisations, Victoria, they have been, when they receive 32-bit hardware for some time now, they've actually just been recycling those computers, and they've not been reusing them and repurposing them and handing them out to people because of the fact that the hardware is not its best. It's probably a bit dog-eared, and they don't want the support overhead for it. So, but then Fixit Leeds, who are closer to home, they also receive a lot of 32-bit hardware, claim that it can be perfectly usable when refurbished correctly and having the right operating system on it. So they're disappointed at the potential of this. But yeah, and the other one that I found more interesting is I got some feedback from a guy who lives in Angola. And he said the vast majority of the computer market is 32-bit. And most people I know operate 32-bit computers because it's exactly in these third world markets that large manufacturers came to dump all of their 32-bit stock. So it's for this reason that you can still buy here new, never used 32-bit computers even today in 2016.
Wow.
So there are parts of the and I suppose framing this discussion more completely is one of the advantages in Ubuntu and Linux in the past was that you could pretty much take any computer that you had spare and repurpose it and reuse it. And we're potentially reducing the option to do that for what is still quite a significant chunk of computer users out there.
But we do this periodically with other things, like the PAE stuff that was disabled a few years ago that made the AMD Geode CPUs unusable and Pentium 4s and things like that unusable. So it is the slow march of progress.
Yeah.
You know, deprecating stuff. Otherwise, you know, who's going to pay for it? There's numerous things, right? Who's going to pay for the infrastructure to carry on, like, building these things that a smaller and smaller and smaller set of people are using? Who's going to do the QA on these? Because as Richard Brown from OpenSUSE says, it's, you know, double the number of ISO images to test because you've already got all your AMD 64 ones being tested, and you've not only got to test the i386 ones, you've got to have people who've got i386, you know, machines that can prove that this thing still boots on an it's no good just testing the i386 images on an AMD 64 capable machine. You need to still boot it on a 32-bit machine. Otherwise, you know, you could end up releasing an ISO that actually doesn't boot on a 32-bit machine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at some point, you kind of have to cut off. And I think now is a good time, given that there's just been an LTS out the door. So you've got a few more years to find another option if you're going to migrate away, or what? Do you go back to Debian? Do you?
I think Debian is going
roll
to
your own, or what?
Yeah. So this decision has really been discussed around proper Ubuntu desktop and proper Ubuntu server. The option for Ubuntu flavors to continue to build 32-bit ISOs is there, and that will continue to remain to be the case. However, we've been cautioned that there are security considerations here because maintaining the upstream security for 32-bit has proven tricky for the LTS versions of Ubuntu, so that the flavors shouldn't commit to a support lifecycle for a 32-bit ISO image that they can't actually support. So there's some careful thinking to be done there. And you know, as you say, with the gentle march of progress, Google Chrome is already 32-bit only. Viber is 32-bit only.
You mean 64-bit only?
Sorry, of course.
Yeah,
they're both 64-bit only.
I had to replace my mum's computer. She's had a 32-bit install of Ubuntu for years now, and Chrome started complaining and saying, you know, you're not going to get any updates. You shouldn't be using this. So I had to, you know, replace that as a result, because the only thing she used was Chrome. So yeah, I too am bitten by the march away from 32-bit machines, just like everyone. Yeah.
But I suppose it's important to point out that whilst this discussion is about images, the 32-bit archive will not be going away because there is a requirement for that for server and cloud deployments, where if you're deploying microservices, you may well want to choose to use a 32-bit Ubuntu to increase your server density, for example. So the archive will still be there, but there is some discussion about potentially removing some applications from that 32-bit archive that simply can't be security supported for the long term.
Right. I'd be interested to hear any feedback from our users on whether they run 32-bit or 64-bit and whether their machine is 64-bit capable, and what they will do when it comes to D-Day. Or is it B-Day? Bit Day? I don't know. No, B-Day, that's something else, isn't it?
You've gone all European on us.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yes. Well, let us know your feedback. And now it's time for Command Line Love. And this one comes from IRC. I learned this one from Seed Node on the #Ubuntu-off topic IRC channel. I just happened to be looking in the channel, and Seed Node posted a URL, and I thought, wow, that's quite cool. Where did you get that? And he posted a GitHub link to a project called Gotty, Gotty. And what Gotty is it's written in Go, and it's a little program that you run which exposes your terminal in a web browser via a URL. So I can tell you guys, if you go to a URL, this won't work for anyone after this show has gone out, but if you go to marvin.popey.com/8080 right now, you guys, not you guys out there, but you guys, Mark, Martin, Laura. If you go to marvin.popey.com,
you're running
:8080,
top.
You'll see top continuously being updated in a web browser. And I did to do that was run Gotty space top.
And I can see in top that you're running Gotty.
Yes, it's the top thing in Gotty because that machine happens to be completely idle. So you grab hold of Gotty. It's really easy to get. You just need the Golang compiler, and it builds in next to no time at all. I'm currently doing it over HTTP just for this quick demo, but you can enable SSL so users can connect securely and view your terminal. So you can, it's a nice way to, often people at the moment are watching live streams of, people playing games or people coding or something. You could do a live stream of you doing something in a terminal. How cool is that?
I thought you were going to say people are doing things like watching the new drama and Star Trek or whatever on Netflix, when really they could just be sitting watching you top in your terminal.
Well, yeah, maybe. I've heard worse.
Another thing this would be interesting for is if you're doing a programming talk and you're doing a live demo of some stuff in a terminal, and you can just share it so everyone can have it on their screen rather than squinting at the projector.
Yes. There's a couple of nice options it's got. One, it's got, the URL I just gave you is the root of a web server, but you can make it add a random string afterwards, so people can't just guess and jump to the same URL. You can obviously change the port number, and you can make it SSL. But the other interesting thing you can do is make allow write access. So I could share a URL with you that would give you write access into my terminal directly from your web browser.
Wow.
Which is a bit scary, obviously, but it might be nice for a little interactive tutorial session. I could
programming.
That makes the idea of doing a live stream of NetHack all the more interesting.
Right.
Just suddenly have everyone jumping on, and it'll be like Twitch plays Pokemon.
Yes. It would be more like Twitch plays Fork Bomb than anything else, I would imagine. But yes, so thank you to Seed Node on Ubuntu Off Topic. I think I will be finding some interesting uses for Gotty. Thank you very much.
We love getting your feedback, so please send it to us. Even the pointlessly mean stuff makes us laugh. If it's short, tweet us on @Ubuntu Podcast. If it's less short, but please no essays, email us on show@ubuntupodcast.org. If you'd like to discuss some of the things we talk about with other listeners, post on our shiny new subreddit at reddit.com/r/Ubuntu Podcast. Or you can just leave a comment on the relevant show notes on our website, ubuntupodcast.org. And now it's time for some of that feedback. We don't have time to read it all out, but we do read it all. So here's a selection of it.
Sometimes we even print it out and take it to the pub for other people to read.
Yes. So we got quite a lot of feedback about the Ubuntu phone or tablet as a primary device. And Javier Vasquez emailed us.
I think that's Javier Vasquez. I think.
Spanish, you pronounce it. Anyway.
Vasquez?
I think Javier probably knows who we're talking about now. And he emailed us at show@ubuntupodcast.org.
I appreciated your discussion about adopting Ubuntu devices, specifically being open to what particular challenges you're facing to use them as daily drivers. I'm lucky enough to have two devices, MX4 and M10. They both cover my mobile needs pretty well. On the road, the phone serves as a hotspot for the tablet. I can enjoy the internet wherever I go without feeding the Google machine.
Oh, that's nice. That's good to hear.
Yes.
And Nathan emailed the show.
I bought an M10 tablet from BQ specifically because I couldn't buy an Ubuntu phone that worked in the USA. I'm learning how to program on Linux, but I have almost zero time with 2 kids and I work 58-hour week at a factory. Youch! So my free time consists of a few minutes during 10-minute breaks 6 days a week. I'm coding in C++ in a terminal, in a cheroot environment, and I'm learning faster now than I have in the last several years. As a bonus, the tablet connects to my Bluetooth speaker and I can listen to some music. If the tablet is fully charged, it can last an entire 10-hour shift. That is just amazing. And I am going to copy and paste that and send that to our internal team who work on Ubuntu because they would love that kind of feedback. Thank you very much, Nathan.
And in fact, he said elsewhere in the email that the limiting factor was the batteries of his Bluetooth keyboard.
Yeah.
Wow. He must be doing a lot of typing. Mind you, it's C++, so yeah, probably.
Stephen emailed the show.
Ubuntu on a BQ phone works well for me as I have basic requirements and I'm not wedded to an App Store ecosystem. Better support is needed for X11 legacy apps, theme and keyboard support, and the UI should be evolved for usability, even if that means scopes and other experimental concepts take less prominence.
Well, the good news is the keyboard bug that he's mentioning there that are in X11 apps on the BQM10 is fixed, I believe, and that should land in OTA 12, which, as we're recording this, probably will go out around about now. Not as we're recording this, as you hear this, it should go out around about now. So that may be fixed by the time we read this out.
And we also had a bunch of feedback about snaps and packaging after our discussion in the last show. Jay Phillips left a comment on our website.
Great to see that snaps are available on multiple distros now, but for it to really take off with the masses, it would need to be accompanied by a GUI app for searching and installing apps. Novice users aren't going to open the command line on non-Ubuntu distros aren't likely to have Snap integration in their GUI app store. Presently, a user can search for snaps on uappexplorer.com, but after downloading the snap, you still have to go to the command line to install it. And even if there was a simple GUI installer like JDebi, it would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid point that, you know, if you're on Antergos or something, and you're not likely to, what's the discoverability of snaps? I think that's a valid point. And perhaps, you know, in the same way that we've worked with some distros to get the Snapd daemon on those systems, maybe we need to offer patches to whatever software stores they all use in order to install snaps that way as well. We've already got the patches in GNOME software on Ubuntu, so those same patches may well be usable on other distros as well.
Those patches are upstream already as well.
If you download a snap on Ubuntu and double click it, does it do anything? Does that open in Ubuntu software, or do you still have to use the terminal? I think that's what
I have no idea. Yeah, no, I don't think we have an association.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the goal. I think the more the goal is to make it easy for you to install snaps from a store, because then you get updates. If you sideload a snap, you never get updates for it, and you're no better position than going and getting a deb off of a random website and installing that with GDebi. You don't get any security updates. You don't get, all the other features like rollback and stuff. So
that's true. Yeah.
I think
better not to make that easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy enough in that you can snap install, foo.snap, but I think it would be better if it was all integrated into the GUI. Yeah.
Jay also explained a bit more about app images, which I think was another of the packaging options we talked about.
Yeah, he says an app image is a self-contained, not sandboxed, portable Linux app that isn't installed and that can be run on any Linux distro, old or new. It's attempting to fulfill the dream of the Linux developer. Package it once and it runs on all distros. This is one of the reasons Linux doesn't package its Subsurface app on Linux, and one of the reasons Linux gives that the year of the Linux desktop hasn't arrived. And he links to a YouTube video. Apps like Krita and OpenShot have decided to use app images rather than making debs and RPMs that only work on the latest version of a distro because of library dependencies. I would compare it to apps found at portableapps.com for the Windows world, which I can run on any version of Windows I'm using. Hundreds of app images are available in one location, the App Image website, appimage.org, and it's possible to have multiple versions of an app image app running on the same machine at the same time. Might be useful to check out this video from the creator of App Image to see what it is. Yeah, see, this is the thing a lot of people are missing is App Image is, has been around a while and people are already creating app images. So, and I like the fact that you can just download an app image and just run it, and there's your app. You don't have to, you don't have to install it or mount it or anything like that. It's just, you download the thing and you double click it. Much like having, as Jay says, much like having portable apps on a USB stick. You just plug the thing in, and in fact, you could have, I suspect you could have app images on a USB stick as portable apps. That would be an interesting project for someone. But that doesn't, as Jay says, that doesn't give you the sandboxing. So that still means you are, susceptible to the possibility that app, whatever it might be, I'm not singling these out, but the ones he listed, Krita and OpenShot, can reach across to other applications on your file system and potentially mess them up. Whereas with sandboxed packages that you get with things like Snap, that's less likely to happen.
Adam York left a question on our Google Plus page about snaps.
I believe I've heard that once you install a snap, that package can be upgraded as new versions are released. How will that happen? Will updates show up in the Ubuntu software store? Will you be able to do something like apt-get upgrade, snap upgrade? If I run snap -help, I see no upgrade option. Currently, I see no way to upgrade snaps. So it's a little change in terminology. So the command you need is snap refresh and then the name of your snap application, and that will check and do the update if one exists.
I think the ultimate goal is to make it as automatic as possible, much like Chrome on Windows and on OS X. It just updates in the background and you don't worry about it and you get the latest version, and in the event that it fails, it rolls back to the previous version. So you just turn your computer on and at some point you get an update and, everything's hunky-dory. You don't have to worry about it. I know some people prefer to have the granular control over what packages are on the system. And for them, I think you may be able to hold packages. But I think that's the ultimate goal, is make everything just auto-update and roll back on failure so you don't get broken packages.
And Will left a question on our website on a completely different subject.
I use YesPipe, PV Pipe, SSH host, cat to dev null to test my connection speed to other machines. Maybe you know a better way to do this.
Yes. iPerf is a better way to do this. You run iPerf on a machine, iPerf -s on one machine, and then you run iPerf -c. So iPerf -s is the server, iPerf -c on another machine, and then the IP address of the other machine. And they just send raw data backwards and forwards, and it tells you what the bandwidth of the connection is. I use it all the time to test my network connections here.
Cool.
Samuel Penn left a comment on our Google Plus page.
Having just come back from Crete, where we also sat on the beach with wireless, I would recommend a solar power charger. The one I was using was giving output equivalent to a wall socket under the Mediterranean sun. That is a good idea.
That'll give output equivalent to a AA battery under the British sun then.
A used AA battery.
I'm just looking across at the little pile of things that I'm collecting for my upcoming holiday, and I can see 3 battery packs there. So, yes, I have something to learn here from Samuel. Thank you for that.
The trouble is the battery packs get warm in the sun as well.
Yes, they do.
Anyway, and finally, Ian Forbes emailed the show.
Just like to let you know that you have another Ubuntu convert. Yay! My technophobe mum lives out in the sticks in the Lake District. She has an Android phone with a great camera, and she uses it to take pictures of the local wildlife, pheasants, barn owls and red squirrels, etc. She has no internet at all. I did a clean install of Ubuntu Mate 1604, what's that? Ka-ching, it says in brackets, on an old Toshiba satellite. I went and bought a Canon PixMark camera, plugged it in, and it worked straight out of the box. Copying photos over from the phone was a breeze too, and now my mum is using the computer regularly to print out her pictures. A big thanks to the whole Mate team. Windows 10 would have scared my mum silly.
Yes.
Excellent.
And also he says, Popey denies sounding like Eames from Inception, but I disagree. Could he please say, you mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling, so I can do a side-by-side comparison. Okay, consider it done.
There you go. And that's all for this week.
Yes.
And that's all for episode 20. We'll be back next week when we'll have more news, comment and discussion of high quality.
Live from Heidelberg.
Oh,
and
goodness.
Pillowcast.
Yes, Pillowcast.
Awesome.
50% Pillowcast from Heidelberg.
Yeah.
We'll try not to have too much of the local brew before we record.
Oh, no, that's disappointing. I'm not sure I'll sign up for that.
All right, 25% of us will. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stoppy McStopface.